Support for WUWM podcasts comes from Johnson Financial Group, helping customers build financial plans around their unique goals for over 55 years. More at johnsonfinancialgroup.com. Johnson Bank and Johnson Wealth, Inc. are Johnson Financial Group companies.
You're listening to Lake Effect Spotlight from WUWM, Milwaukee's NPR station. On this special edition of Spotlight, we're bringing you a story from our public radio friends at 88.9 Radio Milwaukee and their podcast, Uniquely Milwaukee.
The last time Lisa Carruthers visited the Wisconsin State Capitol, she was about 7 or 8 years old and on a school trip.
That was the last and only time that I had visited the state capitol.
Now, more than 50 years later, she's returned. The 64-year-old is part of a large group of residents visiting Madison in February for Black Advocacy Day, hosted by the Wisconsin Legislative Black Caucus.
A lot of people, particularly African-American people, feel that they don't have a voice or a say-so. Coming up here is giving us that opportunity.
Black Advocacy Day gives residents a chance to meet with elected officials and learn how to champion their needs. As a whole, the Black Caucus campaigns for the best interests of African Americans and all people of color throughout the state. Currently, there are 11 Black legislators in Wisconsin. Only 10 are members of the caucus. Senator Dora Drake is the current caucus chair.
So Black Advocacy Day was always something that my predecessor, now Judge Lena Taylor, Michelle Bryant, started. And it really was an impetus to engage people into the policy and advocacy process at the state capitol. And I knew it was important to continue that.
Last fall, the caucus held a statewide listening tour, visiting Green Bay, Racine, Madison, Milwaukee, and Beloit. In these town halls, the lawmakers heard concerns from Black residents on several issues and in varying industries.
Black residents that are farmers. That's a conversation that I don't think is talked a lot as much in Wisconsin because a lot of us are in more urban populated areas, which is okay. But, that's just the nuance of the need why we had to travel.
Senator Drake says the feedback helped inform the caucus's Black policy agenda. Priorities include affordable housing, education and literacy, environmental and infrastructure needs, and criminal justice reform. There's also a focus on healthcare and mental health. And as a recently retired nurse of more than 40 years, healthcare was an important issue for Lisa.
One of my major concerns is how nurses and doctors are forced to do more with patients with less time. And so it's stressing out the healthcare system, it's stressing out the nurses and the doctors.
18-year-old Deshaun Calvin was inspired by his Capitol visit.
I just had a meeting today that just really gave me a greater motivation of, getting into this and then really just speak for our people.
In his meeting with one state representative, the Asada High School senior says he got a better understanding of how bills move through the legislature.
Yeah, I say that kind of spoke out to me, like the bills and how they just not really passing nothing and just not. If we want to change, it really has to start with yourself. Everyone has to participate for this. It's not a one-man job.
And collective action is something Maya Pearson understands. She's a community organizer and vice president for the Madison Board of Education. Today, she's advocating around community development, special education reimbursement, and fully funded education in Wisconsin.
So I know most of the legislators here, but I think it's good to be amongst other Black people in our community, understand what folks are really trying to advocate for, learn more about organizations and what they represent, and making that community connection.
Maya says her visit today is an extension of the advocacy of her grandparents and others who don't always make it to Madison.
I did go to some of the statewide visits that they had, and even in those spaces, my grandma was there. You had people who just wouldn't have the natural connection to the Capitol per se. They're truly the people who are on the ground, are living every day. And those are the people that we are trying to make sure that we're making policy to affect their lives for the better, right?
Senator Drake says caucus members will now focus on building out policies to be ready for the next state budget session in 2027. And she encourages residents to truly understand who and what is on their ballot, including the upcoming governor's race and a proposed amendment to the Wisconsin Constitution that would ban affirmative action practices in state and local government.
We can't afford to be on the sidelines anymore, and I think it's a rude awakening where everyone's realizing we all have a part to play in it. And that's, I think, the best part to realize.
For more stories like this, go to radiomilwaukee.org/ourstories. This has been a special edition of Lake Effect Spotlight. Download and listen for more great local stories about Milwaukee.